graphical design? Now that is our goal. The 10th Muse aims to cultivate an appreciation for creative works by honoring the integrity of its original context while enhancing the visual design of its content. Over the years, the 10th Muse has evolved into a space for exploration, an environment where pushing the boundaries isn't only encouraged, but expected. Each year, we aim to produce a volume that builds on the magazine's previous issues in both design and content. Volume 14 is no exception. Experimental yet consistent variations in type sizes, weights, and alignments have created a visually stimulating design to accompany the linguistic complexity of the art and literature. To experience and appreciate creative content is to behold the inner workings of consciousness. Writing and art making help us process our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Contributors from around the world have submitted prose, poetry, and visual artworks, entrusting us to honor and amplify their vision. Each creative work comes from their consciousness, creating an imprint of themselves in their reality. The search for a cohesive theme between the submissions has led us to the development of sections, or stages as we like to call them. Stages represent periods of time throughout our lives, from struggle and heartache to societal blunders that move us towards what we hope is a peaceful end. The bleared, chosen for its meaning of creating a dim or blurry setting, is where this volume starts. We make many mistakes, and our struggles are ever so apparent while growing up and learning what it means to be human. As we age, we confront the abstract, the intangible feelings of love and heartbreak. We gain life experience and begin contributing to society and affecting the lives of others on a greater scale. The prevalent is a stage holding space for where our personal struggles have affected the lives of others or have been caused by a larger whole. Lastly, if all goes well, we reach the end of our lives with a sense of clarity and peace, the glade at the end of a joyous yet tumultuous trail. Please make yourself comfortable and get ready to open your mind. Come along with me to the first stage, the bleared, to make dim or blur. From an excerpt of The Sacrifice by Carolina Atkins. "What do you have there, buddy?" said the voice again. "Come on and show me." Carson swallowed. "Don't be mad," he said. "I won't be mad, I promise." Turning slowly, standing among the remaining bags of trash, Carson lifted his head and saw his father leaning on the edge of the truck. He hung his head again, blinking. He held out the brown paper bag. "What's that?" Carson's cold hands unfurled the wrinkled opening of the bag and held it out for his father to look inside. Mr. Henley raised an eyebrow. "A sandwich?" The boy nodded, still unable to lift his head. "What's wrong with your sandwich?" "I ate tuna," Carson said as he began to cry. "I tried to eat some of it, but I didn't want to finish it." He rubbed at his hot red eyes with the back of his free hand. "I know you say not to waste it, not to waste food, but I didn't like it." "Come here, son," Father said. "Come here." Carson, his head drooping, shuffled forward. He felt Father's sharp eyes pinned on him. And in the silence, all that could be heard for one moment was the wind creeping between the rustling bags of trash and the crows calling overhead. Then his father's arms pulled him out of the truck and held him. For a moment, Carson caught his breath, hiccuping with his head on his father's shoulder. Mr. Henley set his son back on his feet in the bed of the truck so they could talk eye to eye. Next, a poem called Mindset Anew. They say stability is freedom, a crucible sieve, a necessity of life, a prisoner's shiv, the changing of state to a higher power, a mindset anew, however sour. In search of freedom's true translation, from beyond the chains of stagnant salvation, within these walls, our yearning resides, longing to defy each confining stride, tiring of an incessant need for escape, from shame and guilt, my soul's landscape. Around the corner lies an internalized mess. Am I worthless or merely worth less? Judging myself for each misstep towards inner strife, I surely crept. A human existence imperfectly rhymed, an existence only seen from the perspective of time. For all the mistakes and wrongs I've acquired, have I done enough to cease their inevitable transpire? Escape no longer tempts as before, for my shame and guilt I will explore. To grow wise from mistakes I've once embraced, to encounter darkness I must now face. Overcoming hurdles I've continually built, and free myself from my own crippling guilt. A beacon of reliance I earnestly aspire, endowed with trust, my soul set afire. A kindness blooms, a persistent seed. In high regard may I soon be seen, not by many or even a few, but by the one who matters, with a mindset anew. Our next presenter will be coming up now.
Thank you, Jess, for a lovely reading. I will be reading from an excerpt called The Aquarium by A.J. Ardent. Starts on page 15, but I'll be reading on page 17. Lungs bursting, valiant effort to conserve the little air I had managed to save. I was sinking to the bottom when a reassuring hand managed to find me. It clenched down hard, taming my uncontrolled flailing. I turned my head to the left. It was her. She was looking directly at me, and without lips moving, she said, "Calm down. Everything will be all right. You can breathe. Calm down and breathe." My eyes adjusted, and everything became still. I didn't know how I could hear, but her voice dwindled away my unhinged panic. I was submerged in water, but it didn't feel like water. It was thicker air, thick enough to float. I took a big gulp and exhaled. I could breathe, but each breath felt heavy, enough to where breathing was no longer an involuntary action. Life had to be intentional. I had to remind myself, in, out. With the fear of drowning subsiding, never letting go of her hand, my lifeline, I slowly adjusted to my surroundings. I was inside the aquarium. Fish swam around me without warning, like I was and had always been a part of their world. I reached out and touched one swimming alongside me. It didn't take much notice, carelessly swimming away. The tank felt larger on the inside. The boundary of water and air, our world and theirs, was not what I imagined. No benches or white-tiled floor were on the outside. It was instead dark and black, with small dotted lights speckled everywhere among translucent flowing sheets of fabric that were frozen in time. "Are you okay now?" she said while I gazed in astonishment. "Isn't it beautiful to see everything so clearly?" "Where are we?" I said, or rather thought. Whether through mouth or mind became all the same. It didn't really matter. She tugged at my arm and guided me around an artificial reef toward the other end. While dodging numerous unique and colorful creatures floating in her path, absent of any noticeable fear, she continued to hold my hand as we swam. All the while, I kept an obsessive watch of the black abyss and the thin membrane that separated it from us, worried it could creep in and envelop us both. Finally, we approached our destination. In violation of the endless black speckled void, a brilliant blue orb appeared into view. In arresting astonishment, I said, "This is impossible. Is that the—" "Yes," she replied with a smile. "This is your world, and everything you see before you is a possibility. You simply have to take the plunge." Thank you.
Oh, I'll get that later. Hello. This next reading is titled The Mask by Tyler Poland. It's on page 20. When I was younger, I found myself watching very closely at the way I looked, spoke, and acted. Monitoring myself so closely that human interaction became tiring, tedious, exhausting. I found myself changing, morphing that little larva of my personality crawling about my head into the butterfly that those around me found most beautiful. By the time I was in high school, I had so many of these masks, I could no longer recognize my own face. My likeness faded into the shelves upon shelves of masks, a carnival of disguises, a tomb of faces that were not my own. Long before I became lost in my masquerade, my friends saw through it. They saw how my demeanor changed when a newcomer joined the conversation, and they hated me for it. They called me a number of things, some I don't care to mention. Fake, fraud, liar, snake, among others, became my identity to them. Another mask added to the shelf. And yet, despite all their ridicule, all their hatred, I could not comprehend why they thought that way. I could not understand why they thought my masks were so unnatural, so heinous. After all, everyone used masks, right? From that moment on, I began to see more and more that the masks I had created were not common practice. None of my peers, as far as I could tell, changed their behavior to match those around them. None of them traversed their days in fear of using the wrong tone, saying the wrong thing, not making eye contact, or not smiling enough. None of them kept such a tight leash on their emotions, and none of them felt ashamed when they weren't perfect. All of them, every last one, could go about their days without a care in the world, and it infuriated me. Why was I the only one who had to suffer? Why were they allowed to live in peace? What made them so goddamn special? I held on to that anger much longer than I should have. They had done nothing wrong, they were just existing. I was the defect, and I wanted to know why. So I began my research. I yearned desperately to know why I was trapped in the vast catacombs of masks I had unconsciously made. And after weeks of searching and a great deal of reading, I found my answer. At first, I didn't want to believe it. That couldn't be right. There was no way I could have autism. The more I searched, the more I read, the more things made sense. I began to realize I wasn't alone. I wasn't fake, I wasn't a fraud, not a liar or a snake, I was just me. I began to see all the things I hated about myself, all the unnatural things that had been, quite painfully, pointed out to me every waking moment since I learned to speak. And I wondered, how had no one known? How had no one put the pieces together? After all, I was a child who always interrupted, talked too much or too loud, could only relate to others through long-winded anecdotes that no one cared to hear, who repeated off-the-wall sounds, words, and phrases I heard and instantly memorized jingles, commercials, and songs, who read 5 levels ahead of my peers, who could not eat certain foods or touch certain things without feeling as though I would be sick from the unwelcome texture, who was so sensitive to sound that I would shut down in panic in crowded spaces, who would dive headfirst into new hobbies and interests, only for them to lose their appeal weeks or even days later, who, when overcome with emotions or bored out of my mind, would shake my hands around, kick my feet, crack my knuckles, rub my hands together like an evil genius, fidget and chew on the hems of my shirts, and countless other tiny activities, who closely followed routine and scheduling, freaking out when timing was broken, and who would panic when touched, even by my closest friends. I felt almost cheated. All this time, there were resources out there, things that could have helped me if I had only known. Somehow, I managed to push those feelings aside and accept things as they were. What was done was done. No point in dwelling on what could have been. I had to look toward what could be, and I did. I vowed then and there that no child would feel the way I did, not knowing that they weren't freaks, that they weren't strange or abnormal, not if I could help it. I wanted to be that safe space I never had, that support system, that refuge I so desperately needed. And now I'm on my way to doing just that, helping myself and others learn to live in spite of the masks. Thank you. This next excerpt is on page 22. It is titled, I Chanced Upon a Red Flower by Debassery Nandy. I chanced upon a red flower lovely, wilting in the rain. Her bejeweled veil tinkled, despite the whipping gale. The rim, silver as starlight clouded, much like my chamber decorated, overlooking the busy town, nightly rays dancing upon the lone quiet bed. The petals shivered, withering in the storm. Will you not take my hand, O innocent lass, O bride of beauty and allure? This scarlet umbrella shall shield, may your fidelity and pledge without sully remain. The floret was not mine to uproot and pluck, tints ripe as the crimson fruits the rich devour. I can but protect from afar, cannot caress the sweetness. I shan't ever lift your shroud, let the fancy remain. I shan't wish to see your face, even if it ripples the lace. The groom of right I am not, an escort mere to guide you through the dark. The palanquin upended in the tempest of murk, make use of me, nothing more. How I long for the rose dear, in spite of the thorns clear. The color calls, bloom by my side on evenings of snow. I shall fade when you retire of me, yet let me feel thy fingers, fair as the foam upon the sea. Come, O lady of mystery, let us cross the treacherous lea. How wonderfully strong, O resilient shrub of youth and life, much inferior I am. To the adorned divan, my mind harks back in chilled evenings, none to share the wealth with, the street outside bursting with activity. Flee to thy betrothed, the moon is smiling. You must shine upon this eve, and I shall disappear from where I came, a castle gleaming. Thank you. I would like to introduce the next stage, the abstract. That which is abstract or the theoretical consideration of something. I would also like to introduce the next artist, Dominic Gaspey.
All right, I'm going to read to you an excerpt from a book I'm trying to write. I called this chapter Debts. I could feel it. I could feel him behind me. Though I can't see him, I know he's there, despite my paranoid glances up at the trees, to my left, to my right, everything in between, he's nowhere to be found. Nothing more than a ghost in the moonlit night, dancing with the blending trees and howling of the wind. Lost within my mind, I mull it over. In my head, 13 shadows, 12, all on the same side. He slaughtered 12 men and survived, with what appeared to be ease. Why he didn't come for me leaves an eerie chill in the surrounding darkness. Forcing myself onward and casting the thought aside, I concentrate on getting back out of the storm as the rain pelts my drenched dress. Jingle lies curled up against my arms, her head pressed suddenly against my breast, ear above my heart. She shivers, eyes wide and searching the gloom of the forest, his impression left deep in both our minds. The storm doesn't hold back, the wind slamming into us with little remorse. I push forward for what feels like hours, my legs screaming with fatigue until the dim orange luminescence of a fire cuts through the trees, reviving my exhausted form. "Maddie!" Jingle exclaims over the sudden yet distant growl of thunder, pointing towards the fire. I see it. Sprinting now, the fire goes closer. In the flickering light, the remains of a small abandoned homestead climb into view, the shadows of the old structures jutting out like the wings of fallen angels. This falters my approach, slowing my pace to a cautious, slow creep. Cast upon the decaying walls lie the eerie, dramatized forms of humans close to a fire. I halt my advance immediately. What was caution now rendered pure fear. I can hear the pause in Jingle's breath, fear the conservativeness of my own, as I peer over what once was a fireplace now reduced to crumbled stone. As my eyes crest the reminiscences of the fireplace, the signature silhouette of the human form melts into view. 4 figures all huddled close around a small fire. The roof and remaining walls around them remain solid enough to hold back a fraction of the elements, the rest left for the inhabitants to deal with. The eyes of the group turn to me, each holding me in their fearful glare. An equal mix of terror and exhaustion swim in each individual's gaze. They each analyze me, a long and terribly silent pause passing before they absently return their eyes to the flames. One scoots to the side, clearing us a spot beside them. I am quick to realize it's the closest I'm going to get to an invitation. Clambering over the remains of the homestead's back wall, I start towards the flame, setting Jingle down, leading her towards the group. Slowly we sit down, the eyes of the others lost to the fire. No words are shared for some time, and for some reason that makes the fire that much more comforting. I take in the other refugees, each dressed in worn clothing so threadbare it looks like rags atop their damp skin, each in their own stage of malnutrition, some far worse than others. My gaze finds an older gentleman to my right, the one who slid aside for Jingle and me. Out of the 4 original inhabitants, he is the worst off. What I originally mistook for age becomes evident is just another symptom of hunger and desperate thirst. He holds his hands dangerously close to the fire, his body closer than any other, yet he seems the coldest of all. He shivers violently, his lips blue, eyes sunk deep within his skull. His skin is near paper thin, nails as fragile as glass. Then suddenly he goes deathly still. A brief moment of fear in his eyes before his stare becomes as void, and he falls limply upon his side. His eyes stare blankly towards the ceiling. It takes me a moment to realize he's not breathing. I open my mouth to speak, but before I can, someone stands, dragging him towards the back of the room before returning to the fire with haste, the group shifting, closing up the empty space. The silence begins to turn eerie as no one acknowledges what has just happened to the person sitting beside them. I turn to Jingle, her blue eyes meeting mine with an equal amount of worry. Who are you people? My voice sounds so hoarse as I struggle to comprehend their silence. That man just died and you're not going to say anything? What is there to say? A woman lifts her head, her empty brown eyes no more alive than the dead man's. None of us knew him. We were no familiar with him than we are with you. Shouldn't we bury him? Or should we at least cover his body? If you have the shovel and strength, be our guest, the man beside Jingle says, his eyes lost in the flames. What happened to you people? I study them, finding ghosts, shells of what used to be people. The monarchy happened. The woman answers with an exhausted yawn. They stole everything we had and tried to enslave each of us. We are the ones who got away. You're debtors. My jaw drops. The woman stares at me, too weak to glare. You obviously are not, so who are you? A spy? Have you come to capture us? Bring us back? Kill us? Killing would be preferred, the man murmurs. I'm a runaway. We are runaways, I gesture to Jingle. We escaped our masters and we're looking for somewhere to hide. Hide? There is no hiding, the man scoffs. What do you mean? I mean what I said. You can't hide from the crown. Everywhere you go, they will find you. There is no escaping. Nate and their spies are everywhere. The woman glances around as if a simple mention would spawn an attack. Then how have you guys not been caught? Luck, I guess. It's bound to run out at some time. The fire burns in the man's eyes, anger pumping through him, yet his body remains too weak to express it. Can we stay with you guys? There is no you guys. No one sticks together. You're better off alone. Nate only takes interest in large groups. It's not worth sending a squad after 1 or 2 debtors. They need a group to make it worth it. A younger boy in his mid-teens answers from across the flame. Why risk it here? I ask him. The woman answers for him. The storm. Nate doesn't operate in risky conditions. They need good roads to transport their catch. Still, this is a gamble. As soon as the storm clears, we all split. That's how we've lasted so long, the woman explains. Rest while you can, travel whenever you're not. Where do you guys go? There has to be somewhere safe. There is nowhere to go, and nowhere is safe. Just pick a direction and keep walking. Avoid roads and populated areas and hope you find somewhere to sleep. The boy lays back, curling into a ball, his eyes sliding closed. The flame snaps, crackling in the silence. The woman leans over, pushing absently against the boy, making sure he's still alive. How can you guys live like this? This is horrible. This is freedom, and freedom always comes with a cost. The woman meets my gaze, an ember of life flickering in her eyes. Some of us would rather pay that cost than pay that tyrant those mindless fools call their king another son. Freedom isn't free, the man beside me chuckles, the inferno in his eyes far more violent than the flame before him, and it only takes payment in blood. Lightning cracks across the sky, its vicious roar sending a chill down my spine. Jingle wraps her arms around my middle, burying her face in my side. How do you people eat? Eat? The man laughs. Does it look like we've eaten? My resolve wavers. Suddenly, I want to turn back, retrace our steps, but as I peer through the broken window beside me, watching the storm rage on, I notice such would be a fool's errand. I can't help myself but ask, what was it I expected? I should have turned back when I first had the chance, surrendered to the man in the forest. Even then, was it too late? I'm jarred from my thoughts as another bolt of lightning splits the sky, illuminating the ruins of a barn beyond its purple glow. My eyes catch a figure atop the structure, a shadow. It seems to lean against the wall of the loft, only to straighten itself and stand on its own. I blink and the shadow is gone, the light fading back to black. A shiver crawls down my spine as I turn back to the fire, reminded that I'm not here by choice. The attack on the governor's manor, the foul fate of the 12 men in the forest, all connected to that thing that hides in the dark, hunting me, haunting me. Why it doesn't just come down here and finish the job as my sanity teetering on the edge, lost deep in the what-ifs, why-nots, and the thousands of possibilities. Jingle yawns, dragging me back to reality. I watch her head gingerly fall in my lap, her eyes sliding closed. A sudden warmth, stronger than any fire, burns in my chest as a smile crosses my face. The woman watches me, her eyes tracking my movements. How long have you two known each other? A few days, maybe, I'm not sure. These last few weeks have gone so fast. You should get some rest. You seem exhausted. I am, but I'll be fine. Suit yourself, the woman turns, laying on her side and drifting off.
Hi, everyone. All right. My name is Courtney, and feel free to follow on page 32. Hey, everybody. Okay, it's perfect. We often make decisions that inspire connections, but something about these connections can either be of sustenance or destructive to who we are. Remember, you are you, and they are they, separate entities for a reason. We must maintain and sustain all that seems genuine to ourselves and selfishly hold on to that ideal. With this contemplation, I term strings. So, what's life? Is it a thought or like an idea? Maybe it's something different. We live in moments, but what is the purpose? Too good of memories, but they're not good enough. I seek to find comfort and get lost among these strings, so I cut them off. It's worth the trials when real connections are being made, but the signal only strengthens with the taste of Captain and Coke alongside some angry orchards. Don't let this moment be short-lived. It wasn't just a night. It was an experience molded by common feelings. Fantastic chemistry where on both sides we share something more valuable than silver or gold. Like the way a scale tends to balance, it evenly defines our feelings as mutual and truthful. Back to reality, and the taste of Captain and Coke is no more. There is a distance between two peaks that share great similarities, but at the peaks define something only unique to that mountain. Around one, there is a lingering dark cloud and uncertainty, and the other, a bumpy terrace with slight patches of green. At their best, nature thrives, and they stand in the glorious art forms. I wait, phone pings. What is this smile I can hardly recognize? Is that me in the mirror? When did I become so drawn into this whirlwind of emotions? Who are you, and what did you do to me? I say, staring dead into the quartz of framed glass, basking in the silence of my rhetoric. This is a newly unlocked feeling. Is this what they call love? No, it can't be. I can't possibly be in love. Can I? No way. I look away and pan to the empty cans of Angry Orchards at my bedside. I can't recall going through that many. My eyes close, and there I am, falling into this deep abyss. I reopen them and see this great orchard in my path. The trees swaying in the wind, the sweet scent of nature, that warm feeling from being in their presence. We are alike in many ways, born from somewhat of a seed. With life, we breathe in. All that is toxic, we exhale. I snap out of my daze and realize that it's just a text message reminding me of an upcoming bill payment. Jeez, I need to lay off the novels for a little bit. But the more I stay away, the more the thought of you persists. I return to my bedside with my empty cans of Angry Orchard, and I think, what if all this was just a dream? Would it matter anyway? For all I know, there is standard art, but the very essence of yours stands as undefinable. Thank you.
Jess and I will be reading Sunshine's Tape by Nacho West on page 35. The docks out by the springs are my favorite place to be. I love the cool blue of the water and the old wood of the dock. Summer after my sophomore year, I met her at these springs. It was a hot day and we were both tubing. Somewhere along the way, I had lost my friends in the spring. I returned to the shore and talked to the lifeguard. Hello? Have you seen a group of guys my age?
No, can't say that I have.
All right, thanks. Are you new around here?
I've lived here for a while.
Why haven't I seen you here before?
I don't know. Maybe you should get out here more.
Yeah, maybe I should leave my friend more often.
Maybe.
Do you like being a lifeguard?
Yeah, I guess. Just gotta talk to people who lose their friends.
My apologies. I didn't think I was bothering you so much.
No, you're not bothering me. Just saying. What's your name?
I'm Josh, and you are?
I'm Mel.
There they are. When will I see you again, Mel?
I'll be here Wednesday and Thursday.
Cool. See you then. Bye.
Bye, Josh.
We waved at each other with smiles as I rejoined my friends. I returned to the springs later that week and I met her at the dock, but we didn't do much tubing. It was 2 summers later and we still hung out at the springs. Summer was almost over, so we stayed there for hours to watch the sunset. I looked her in the eyes and I said, I can't wait for us to sit here again tomorrow.
You know I'll be gone before the sun comes up tomorrow.
But you can stay here on the dock with me for a while.
I'd love to, but you know I gotta go.
Why? Everything is here.
Not everything. I haven't learned a thing in this place, not in years.
I got a good job right here. We can stay and start a life.
After I finish school.
Why wait? We know what we want now.
Do we?
What? I just thought you loved it here.
I do. It's just...
Just what?
confining.
What about us?
Don't worry, babe. I still love us. I need to do this for me, but I'll call you every day. Don't you worry.
I let go of her hand and she hugged me goodbye. We approached her truck and she drove the old pickup off. A tear escaped my eyelid and ran down as the sun began to set on our love. The first week of semester was a breeze. I worked in the yard during the days and came home to talk to her. The first day, the phone rang and I ran to pick it up.
Hey, how you been?
Great, just waiting to talk to you. How you been?
It's okay. My roommate's a little weird. I miss you so much.
I miss you too. When's your first break?
Not for another month.
I'll be counting down the days.
Me too. Me too.
What's this about a weird roommate?
Yeah, she refuses to respect my privacy.
What do you mean?
She's already asked me some personal questions. I don't really want to talk about it.
I got it. Anything else new?
Not really. Hold on, gotta go soon.
Okay, I hope your roommate gets more normal. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
A dial tone cut off her voice. The next day was much the same. Soon, a month had passed. I got home from work that day ready to talk. The phone rang a little later than usual, but at least it rang.
Hello?
How's it going?
It's good.
Anything new up there?
No, just hanging out with friends.
That's cool. Anything special?
Not really.
Hope everything's good up there. You have break soon, right?
Yeah.
Love you. See you soon.
Yeah, sure.
A dial tone sounded.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I will be reading a poem that I have titled, You Don't Know Love. I wrote this for my youngest sister shortly after her first love broke up with her. My darling, you don't know love yet. Not for your youth nor inability, but if I might speak candidly. Your blind eyes have not seen him, nor the facade he wears to please, or the shadow he hides with ease from every eye but the prying gaze of his true lover. And his tainted perfection will not disgust you or reduce your affections. In truth, you've peeked upon his soul, not dark nor light, but the liminal zone that the media claims as fiction. This neat, meager world we live in reminds you to hold his faults against him. Remember, darling, to look past the shield that conceals the power to yield a partnership bound in truth. And not despite his darkness will you love him, but he is yours. And all he is opens a door to his shame and pain, guilt and guile, his successes and defeats, all worthwhile, are yours to keep within your heart, and never a day will you start to gaze upon him with loveless eyes. Nothing he does will sever your love, and heated rhetoric, only another brick to the eternal foundation you've built in tandem. Every surmount, another ward to your fortress against this evil world. My darling, love is a quiet art that is only concerned with matters of the heart. And when logic sends you away, listen to your inner voice advising you to stay. For the enemy utters 7 truths with a lie to stifle altruism. Darling, be wise. Do not hold yourself in high regards, my dove. Embrace yourself in all that you are, and reveal yourself to a man who dons no veil in your presence, yet finds relief in your silence. Until death do you part, but no, darling, not even then. Love is a bond that transcends all, surpassing time and dimension. Your love and affections are hideous and lovely and sane. Sacrifice and pain, yet beautiful all the same. Love is not a feeling, my love. Love is a never-ending action, a divine service, not humane. Though we grasp a fraction of its nature, observe its caliber, and remember, you are only a traveler, an instant in its infinite expansion that needs her and her passions to survive the human condition. You don't understand this love yet, but you will, my dove. You are pure and naive, take heed in my caution, because you will make a mess of this love, a chaos unsuited to harness. Because mortal love is hurt sometimes. Love is hurting the ones you love sometimes. But all is well, and this pain that swells won't suffocate you forever. And your next love will be even better. And this cycle will continue until you find your one, and you can love true love. Okay, so the next poem I will be reading was written by Tyler Newhouse, and it is titled Loss of My Younger Self. It can also be found on page 42, sorry. Oh, the anguish pierces my heart. My farms and their airy aromas, they lie desolate and stale. Gray ambition has diluted the blue skies. The factories have churned and spun their mighty cogs in harsh cacophony. Nature's symphony is silent in protest. I look in the golden mirror and behold the architect of such destruction, myself. A man broad in wealth and appearance, his white suit shining success, arms outstretched in flamboyant manner, the careless grin smiles back at me. No longer am I the coy farmer from before. My younger years have eluded me. Greed has made me miserable inside. Wait, I shout, staring at the mirror in disbelief. Was this really what I wanted?
Next, a poem, Inconvenience by Lee Bouchamp. I bury you in my youth, content with the answer, not echoing back, but here you are. Dear Lazarus, unwanted. I'm so sorry for your loss. I wish those words existed in my presence, and not you. Now to the next stage, the prevalent, meaning widespread or current. Come with me as we start the prevalent with an excerpt of Lois Basson's The Only White Who'd Ever Heard of Brahmin Bet versus Ashley. Stranger than the fiction was the newly discovered truth that there was more water under the earth than in all the oceans on its surface. When the GOP shut down the United States government on October 1st, 2013, Judith Setwig was one of the first DOJ office lawyers furloughed in New York City. Like other personnel labeled non-expected, Judith was then forbidden access to the DOJ files and offices. She had spent the first week and a half at home, opening arcane online links whose words italicized in her mind. She remembered 9/11 when she had also been forced to stay away from work. Those dozens of years earlier, the bank building where she had been an executive was gouged, then shrouded in black drapery. Contaminants and corruption caused its final devolution to wait a decade. Since 2001, Judith had changed course in many ways than after her divorce in 1981, when her ex had taken their 5-year-old daughter, Sarah, Siv, first to the city in London and then home to Norway.
There we go. I will be reading Survivor Stories by Lynn White on page 54. They have so much in common, those who survived. All are shocked, all are traumatized, all are filled with hatred for the perpetrators. The Israeli survivors went home, to homes still intact or rapidly rebuilt, to hospitals ready to dispense care when needed, to lives ready to be resumed when they were healed. The Gaza survivors have no homes to return to, no chance to rebuild the rubble of their dreams, no hospitals ready to dispense care when needed, to lives unready to be resumed, to no food, no water, no heat, no roads to flee along, no way back, only rubble, death, and hatred. And what next? What follows in the next installment?
My name's Kate Cadleck, and I'll be reading a poem on page 57. It's called The Moon Tucks Her Hair Behind Her Ears. And I cope colorfully. Daisies shake their heads in a chorus of enthusiastic no's. The night gods must have decided I deserve a good dream for once. The moving pictures stain my brain pink as a science project. Please ignore the notebook on my desk, its pages stuffed with stiff-necked sentences. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the final stage, The Glade, an open space in a forest. This is War of Time by Michelle Baumhoff. Memories congregate at the embrace. What many will see as a blessing that she remembers, others understand as a fleeting moment, briskly dispersing and forever fading into the dusk. Hands that once held babies jerk and oscillate, grasping at grown faces, appearing only with the eclipses that shine with sweat in the smoldering kitchen. Scars and wrinkles decorating the bodies of love, evoking moments. Time brought war upon just a few moments more, before we become new again. But will it ever be enough? This is January Harvest by Grace Miller. We were darling thieves, catching heaven on our tongues. If the clouds spoke, would they whisper how we stole winter, bottling fluff in oversized parkas as lashes trapped crystals and chased away the bitter? Or how we laughed in the face of frigid wind and its breath-etched braille upon our skin? But we were thieves, so we caught the air between our slipping grins and called it laughter. We stole the mockingbird's mimic trill as our battle cry. Cheeks flamed and aching while snow bullets tore holes in the sky. We'd hide our stolen pieces of winter in that glimmer as dusk comes, in that painted speck of purple, red, and pink folded in the patches of clover blooms as we thieved our way towards spring.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple of poems. The first found on page 69 by Colette Kitchen, called Heaven. When death does find me quiet, ready, shaken, I intend to find my after filled with groups of endless chatter, and find fun havers talking into tomorrow, for I shall join their loud chatter and rescue myself from my dreadful silence. Their stories of woe and memories of laughter ringing throughout my eternal after. Then it be that I have my turn and I am welcomed into their circle of anything but dreadful silence. When I start talking, I'm unable to stop my own chatter. I chatter about my life, before the after, and we share our lovely laughter, and I no longer feel lonely anymore. And when I spot a familiar face entering the after, I announce to the fun havers till morrow and rush over and greet them with my excited laughter. Once I open my arms to greet them as they are still, quiet, and shaken, I invite them to chatter and join in the lovely talking till the following morrow. After death did find me, I am no longer quiet and shaken. I intend to keep my after filled with groups of lovely, endless chatter and laughter. Next is a poem by one of our regular submitters, Rob Luke, on page 72, called Challenges of Faith, for Martin Scorsese and his movie Silence. In the treehouse I braced for Billy, who scampered up the balding elm. He tempted me to utter a four-letter curse word, spit like a watermelon seed, beady as belligerence. Rush weeds rustled like weathered betrayal. Looking over the world of swamp rot, the algae of unclean desire, I refused, my Lord, for my belief. Years later, carrying the faith into the drab slab of the factory, I smuggled into an undiscovered country where indiscriminate lurked in the shadowland of the Inquisitor. My peers accosted my values, And after I worked on Sunday and missed church, I felt bit by the worldly. As my anguish increased, I attempted to maintain vigilance over my soul, but coworkers knocked my weakness. Those who palmed silver for microwave sandwiches and Cokes, betraying my equilibrium, I renounced God. Having fled like Jonah after another factory, a cement block colossus, continuing my flogging like a cinema serial, they whipped my back and struck my scalp. I surrendered my virginity to a woman who did not even love me. I slept with her who kept my guilt awake and apostatized the image of Christ, of Jesus that flickered like doubt in my mind. I saw Satan, the one-time angel, two-time father of lies. So I prayed. I heard silence. I prayed and prayed to impending quiet that stirred my anxiety like elbow grease onto paint thinner. My deteriorating bones pressed for vinyl reproductions, rendering authorized recordings of agony into a mortal crescendo of defeat. It was not as strong as Jesus, who works security in the administration of his followers, who's unable to duplicate his feats of martyrdom. The horticulture began the Garden of Gethsemane of the church built on a rock for weaklings subject to porous sand. In the dream of my death, my hands clasped a small cross for my large sins of denial, the crowding of roosters, my artifact of simple faith surviving difficult torture. The article of my belief holds my secret, a trusting pact with the whispering God. The Almighty was accused of selected hearing by disgruntled channel surfers, slacking the fellowship of nonprofit public television, and those who, unable to adhere to the work, required the faith beyond audiobooks read by false prophets. A God not deaf to my laments, yet who sees my sins, who nevertheless in the end credits my account with an interest-free financing period. A Black Friday must-have, the vinegar aftertaste of suffering. Jesus shouldered bittersweet sacrifice. He is risen from the dead as per brick and mortar Sunday, waiting the Cyber Monday of online believers shopping for salvation.
My name is Jan, and I'll be reading Get Thee Behind Me by David Harris, which you can find on the next page. Judaism doesn't believe in sin, not the way Christians do. God won't punish you for eternity for eating the wrong breakfast. I think bacon is one of God's most brilliant creations. God will be disappointed, but the only punishment will be your own conscience. The Greeks asked, is this holy because the gods love it, or do the gods love it because it is holy? Talmudists before the Talmud. What makes a law holy? What makes us holy? Is it tzaddik, a holy person, one who obeys all 613 laws, or is it just a legalist? The Talmud says there are times when we can ignore the law in order to save a life. Hillel said, that which is hateful to you, do not do to others. Obeying that great law shall keep me on the righteous road. If that isn't enough for God, she can do with me what she likes. And next, just on the same page, the next page, not the same. As You Would Never Know I Was Here by John Gray. For frenzy, there's the sea itself, sawgrass whipped up by the wind, or two gulls squabbling over fish carcass. For the relative calm, the pines, tall and restrained, and the warblers among them, songs drowned by crashing waves, but heard within the colony. Near stillness is the tide pool, an urchin like half a ball covered with spikes. A fiddler crab, barely bigger than a thumbnail, and tiny fish darting in and out of rock cover. Here is the end of my mission, not the chopped-up angry waves, not their fuzzing foam as they slap against the shore, not even the sun rays that bear down on the bare skin of the true believers. Instead, I'm enwrapped in those most minute activity. If it weren't for breath, I wouldn't know I was here.
we have a special guest this evening. Prepare yourselves. Sunshine came to us last year as she submitted several works and performed, and we have requested that she come back to the 10th Muse launch party tonight to perform her work, Flower in the Attic. Come on up, Sunshine. You need a muse in your life?
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Her virgin white clothes didn't look so virgin anymore. Now all of your beautiful things will be taken away. A dragging blade, a stranger's voice, naked trembling under 1,000 stars, goodbye my heart. A spinning blue rose in a golden cage, goodbye peppermint pink. Freezing me internally, saving my innocence. These welts, this torment transforms me into a dazzling ballerina, fantasizing freedom as a dusty attic room filled with paper flowers, everything painted in deep violets and reds. On this homemade swing, I can almost taste the wind, taste the whip, my little toy soldier. Drink me like lilac perfume, love-laced, barefaced, spraying into the never-ending and unforgiving winter. The petals of your fingers turn my insides gushy pink. He was the only one who ever truly seen or understood me, even if he was older than my dad, and I was only 16.
Is this one okay? I call this closing remarks. Thank you, and congratulations to the staff for producing another beautiful volume, volume 14. Another round of applause to the students here tonight. So next year is a big year for us. The 10th Muse it'll celebrate its 15th anniversary, and we'll be working on volume 15. And we're excited about that. I think we've got a lot of different things planned for next year. And I wanted to just sort of close with sort of how I always close these over the past few years, and that is to just talk a little bit about the course sequence that, especially for you students out there, that produces this magazine. It's a collaborative effort between myself and Eric Wold. Eric teaches DMS 214, which is what produces this volume. But there's a course called DMS 213 in the fall, and that course is meant to promote the magazine and also to get these submissions collected and organized and things like that. Next year, that class is going to look a little different. I'm just going to can I take this off? There, that's better. Next semester, the course will look a little different. We will collectively write a retrospective on the 15 volumes of the 10th Muse that will be a part of volume 15 next year. So we're excited about that. So for all of you students out there who are looking for a credit hour for the fall, I encourage you to register for DMS 213. Again, I'd like to just congratulate you all on the work you've done this semester to put together volume 14. It's quite an accomplishment. I know you all work very hard to do it. So I want to thank all of you for coming and for supporting this magazine and supporting the students who work so hard to put this together. Thank you again. Have a good night. Yeah, yeah.